In 1903, the Wright brothers invented the airplane. It was hard to imagine then that today there would be over 500,000 people traveling in the air at any point in time. In 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto invented Bitcoin and the blockchain. For the first time in history, his invention made it possible to send money around the globe without banks, governments, or any other intermediaries. Satoshi is a mystery character, and just like the Wright brothers, he solved an unsolvable problem. Whenever this happens, it inspires incredible innovation. The concept of the blockchain isn't very intuitive, but still many people believe it's a game changer. Despite its mysterious beginnings, the blockchain may be the airplane of our time.
I found out about blockchain first, as most people around that time were, through Bitcoin. And personally, at first, I thought that Bitcoin was an absolutely terrible idea.
I was teaching at Stanford back in 2010, and a teaching assistant for the class sent me an article. She said, oh, there's this really cool thing. It's open source money. And I remember thinking, open source money, isn't that cool? But it'll probably never work.
I did what most people do the first moment they are exposed to Bitcoin. I discounted it. I thought this was silly internet money. You could mine it. It's like a golden goose. It took me about a year to really re-explore the technology. And so by 2012, I did what I tell most people to do today, is turn off your phone, lock your door, and study this technology for a day. It's the best advice I could give.
I was on a sabbatical from work and decided I'd take a year off, live off some savings, figure out what I want to do. It was there that I discovered this little orange icon with a bee in the middle. I said, what is this strange thing? So I started looking, okay, Bitcoin, interesting. That was about 2012, 2013. And I haven't left the space since. I've just continued further and further down the blockchain rabbit hole, if you will. And I've been pleasantly surprised and had no reason to crawl my way back out and find another technology.
There's a point at which it's almost like you can't stop. It just gets so interesting and you're so fascinated by it and you just want to learn more and more and more. And even, by the way, to this day, there are new developments, there are new ways of solving problems, new approaches, and it's very exciting to be in this world.
It feels really exciting to be involved in blockchain. It feels like we're at the forefront of something that has at least the potential to transform our interactions between each other, between corporations, the underlying infrastructure of both the private sector, but also of government.
For me, part of the fascination is that we don't yet know exactly what this thing is, and yet there was still lots of people gathering around it. And I thought of it as like, a space rock that crashed on Earth, right? You'd have a bunch of people that gather around, and they're all pointing, what is this thing? And you don't really know what it is, but it's still very interesting.
So for me personally, the blockchain has two main technical ingredients. So one ingredient is cryptography. And when I say cryptography, I really mean asymmetric cryptography. And the other ingredient is so-called distributed systems. But these are the two main things. If you understand these two things, then basically you understand all the technical details of blockchain or Bitcoin, for that matter.
You have the ability to create records that are indelible. You have the ability to transfer value by making updates to those records. And you have the ability to automate updates to the records through these things called smart contracts. And that means potentially that you could transform the structure of financial services. Today, there are all sorts of institutions that exist to maintain sets of records, to be a trusted third party is the industry parlance for it. And that role is potentially fundamentally reshaped.
Blockchains are networks. And networks that we see today, Alibaba, Airbnb, Uber, those are interesting networks, but they're centralized networks. Here, you're going to have networks that are decentralized, that are working more on as a cooperative. I think some of the challenges will be what are the economics of those networks, what are the economics of certain blockchains versus today's discussion, which is all about the technology. I think tomorrow's discussion will be about how do you build network effects off of these new railroads.
And what's especially interesting for me is that it was a grassroots movement from the technology sector, not sort of the movement of established businesses trying to get in to find a new selling point. It's really a bottom-up movement from us geeks.
It's one of the most amazing things in science that happened in the last 100 years, that this thing is actually possible, that you can digitally sign transactions or other kinds of information so that you can prove to people that you actually signed this. It's much more secure than these, curvy, wriggly signatures we usually use in our everyday life. And it probably will replace those things soon enough.
We spent 2 years trying to understand this space and what it really meant, and we found out that it meant a lot more than just another digital currency. It actually, as the blockchain became more influential in our thinking, we began to realize that it was a profound shift in how the internet could be used to create new forms of value, and how it could be used to enfranchise, and include people in global finance.
We've had the internet for years now, and on the internet, still nobody knows whether you're a dog or not. Identity fraud is completely out of control, data breach. So, the area where we need some new thinking is in the sort of in the identity space. So maybe the technology brings something new into that space, and we need it fairly quickly, because we haven't fixed the identity problem for people, but we're about to put 10 billion, trillion, gazillion things on the internet.
We can have a trust relationship without really having ever met each other or having done business at all with each other. I think that's fundamental, one of the fundamental things. Security is another. Blockchains are military-grade cryptology, and they've never been cracked. It isn't, when you hear about hackers, stealing Bitcoin or whatever, they're not stealing from the blockchain itself. They are stealing at the point of entry, at the wallet level or at the browser level, and they intercept those messages. But the blockchain itself is very secure.
The Internet of Things will probably be the best test case for a lot of blockchain technology. Because if we're going to have millions or billions or trillions of internet-enabled devices doing everything from driving us around to managing our affairs to monitoring our health, they're going to need a way to move and store and manage value and data that has value in a way that's secure and private. And right now we don't have that. And I'm concerned about the ubiquity of data and how it flows in and through internet-connected devices. I think with a value platform like blockchain, we can at least address some of these problems and maybe even create new opportunities.